If you want to scale your digital marketing agency to over 7 figures in annual revenue in 2026, you need to watch this video. I'm going to break down 8 marketing channels and strategies that you can use to help you scale. And the truth is, you only need to master one of these to achieve this level of revenue. Yes, one. Take it from me personally, I was able to get to this level just mastering one channel. And if you do the same, then you will be able to achieve the same results. I speak to dozens of agency owners, hundreds over the last few years, and one of the things that consistently comes up is how they've all mastered one channel. Actually, most of the time when growth plateaus, it's because they try and get too clever and diversified too soon. So if that's you, watch this video. I'm going to break down what channels I would focus on and then share with you my experience with all 8 and what I would do if I was starting again today. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's start at the beginning. And the first one is referrals. Now, the beauty of referrals is they close at a really high rate. It's not unusual to have up to 80% of really warm client referrals close, especially if you are a founder who's still in the weeds doing the actual work, because let's be honest, no one is going to be able to do it as well as you can. The problem is this is not scalable, and most founders I speak to of agencies are desperately trying to extract themselves out of the day-to-day managing of client work, which is natural because your evolution as a business owner needs to be running the actual business. And that is where referrals will plateau. Once you extract yourself from the client work, you're going to see referrals naturally taper off because people can't do the job to the same standard as you do. But it's an absolute necessity that you do pull yourself out of that work. So ultimately, referrals are fantastic. And I highly encourage everyone, including myself, to build as many relationships as possible with clients. But it's not a viable long-term strategy to build it on hope. And you'll be surprised, or maybe not, how many business agency owners are completely dependent on referrals, and they constantly go through this cycle of extracting themselves from the client work, seeing referrals dry up, and then being pulled back in and wondering why the business isn't growing. Don't do this. Move to more predictable channels that you can scale. The second channel is cold email. This is nothing that you probably haven't heard of before. And the general process is you source a list of your ICP, that's your ideal customer profile, and then you load this up into a software like Lemlist, and you start to send cold outbound messages with a really strong offer to get people on a call and then sign them. This used to work quite well in the past, but the difficulty is now with scaling this channel is it is just massively saturated. It's the lowest barrier to entry. Everyone is trying to do it, and everyone's competing for the same limited pool of ideal customers. So ultimately, this was a great channel in the past. What we've seen over the last few years, you speak to any agency owner, it has completely fallen off a cliff. I had a good friend who had one of the biggest cold email agencies in Europe, and he actually closed that business down because it was just struggling so much to get results, and they couldn't sell to clients, at least in an honest way, and provides a sustainable service for them. So ultimately, this is a channel that is dying with more advanced filtering from ISPs like Gmail, AI filtering as well. It's going to get even harder, even with all these tools promising personalization. So I'm personally not a fan of cold email. The third one is similar to cold email, but it's actually cold calling. And cold calling is going through a bit of a renaissance at the moment. A lot of people are saying, okay, because cold email doesn't work like it used to before, let's just get on the phone, because it takes more balls to actually call a prospect directly. However, it's running into the same challenges. Even if you can get people on a call, the skepticism and resistance to actually entertain what you have to say is really high. So even with an incredible pitch, and everyone seems to be following the same pitch these days, it is very difficult to close people or get them to follow up to the next stage, because ultimately you are disrupting a very busy person, a decision maker who is going about their day, and distracting them with ultimately something that they don't have intent to even purchase or inquire about. So it's a numbers game. It requires a huge amount of volume. And ultimately, as a founder, you need to consider how you're allocating your time and spending the whole day calling people, trying to get them on to inquire and listen to what you have to say about your deal is not necessarily the best use of time. The fourth channel is SEO. Now, this stands for search engine optimization. This is also coming back, especially with AI-related search gaining in popularity over the last year. I can tell you from personal experience at Magnet Monster, we've also started to be indexed and discovered from AI engines like ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, which is really cool to see. However, I still think it's very early for this. And ultimately, if we're talking about SEO as a channel, if you are starting an agency and you're trying to get traction really fast, it can be quite a difficult one until it starts to pick up traction. Now, I'm not saying don't invest in SEO. You absolutely can still rank for keywords as competitive as it is, but it is a long-term play. And ultimately, I think there is intelligent and systemized ways to run SEO these days. For example, being downstream of social content that will enable you to get more bang for your buck and quicker results. So it's not that it doesn't work. It's just, again, it's massively competitive on all these channels and it will take longer to get results. And when you're starting in the beginning, you don't have long to wait to get results. So for that reason, I do encourage you to invest in it, but not as a top priority. Number 5 is social content or content marketing. Now, you could argue this is the same as SEO. However, I think of it as a different channel. And I'm talking about building your credibility and personal brand on channels where your ICP hangs out. For example, LinkedIn, X, maybe even Instagram, depending on what service that you're actually selling. This is incredibly important because when you do cut through the noise and you get the attention of your ICP, ultimately, where do they go to research and find out about you? They go to your social channels, they examine your content, they see what your history is, what your patterns, what are you saying, and then they make a decision whether to get on a call with you. Now, the difficulty in content marketing is there is a lot of noise, isn't there, in all of these channels that we've discussed to date. However, it is the ultimate compounding activity. And the longer you wait for posting, it's like investing in the stock market. Ultimately, you need to let it compound over time. It is a slow burner. It does take time, like a lot of the good channels, but ultimately it is incredibly complementary as well. So if you think of things like cold outbound, if you do get someone's attention or you do a cold call, and then the recipient on the other end, the customer, goes to research you, that's going to increase the efficiency of these other channels if you are posting on social and you have a strong personal brand. And it gives you a lot of leverage in sales negotiations, producing content assets and scaling things like partnerships and podcasts as well, which are all viable sales channels. So there's a lot of downstream compound benefits that happen as a result of creating content. Most people start, they get frustrated, they stop, but they're not looking at the whole ecosystem and how it's having a complementary impact on all of the other channels. So stick the course, stay patient, and it will start to pick up over time. Number 6 on this list is events and networking, or let's say hosting events directly, because that's ultimately what the true powerful activity is. It's a very hard one to do and execute, but ultimately, if you can start to systemize these and pull them off with a great frequency, I think it could be the most powerful on the list. There is something to be said for being this master connector, the guy that everybody knows or girl, and just connects people. And when people walk into a room or they think of email marketing, for example, you're the person that comes top of mind. And if you're able to systemize events as well as things like dinners, local dinners with your ICP, then it becomes one of the most powerful marketing activities that you can run. However, it does require more upfront investment. It requires time. There's a lot of time it takes to actually get people to attend these. You need to partner up with other people in the ecosystem. So I think events are great, but you have to wait until you're established. And realistically, you need to be based in one of the major cities where your ICP hangs out. For example, New York, LA, London, all these hot spots are where it's best served to actually run events and you can bring people together. If you don't have the resources to do that, you don't have the money, you don't have the connections, usually when you're starting out from scratch, you don't have any of these, then it's a very difficult one to pull off. But If you've been in business for a period of time and you naturally gravitate towards this, then I think it's one of the most powerful on this list, and you should try and systemize and run it as frequently as possible. Number 7 on this list is paid ads. If you don't have the budget, it's very difficult. However, this is the fastest way to test, scale, and find out if what you're trying to offer your market will actually get results. Now, you can run these on Meta, you can run them on Google, you can run them on LinkedIn. I personally run them on LinkedIn myself. It's incredibly scalable if you can actually hack together and figure out what it is, what's the key messaging that resonates with your ICP. However, if you are starting off in the beginning, it's unlikely that you actually have the resources to invest in this. So it is a great one. It's probably the most scalable on the list. It also requires quite a big budget, especially in the beginning, to find out what angles, what messaging, positioning actually resonates with your ICP. And if you don't have that, then it can be a very risky play. Also, in the beginning, your focus needs to be on getting case studies so you actually have the collateral to use in paid media. And if you don't have these, then it's unlikely that your ads will actually work. Another tip on paid media, if you have a strong personal brand, especially on LinkedIn, it will massively amplify the efficiency and performance of your ads. So don't sleep on that. Again, it's another compound activity that will improve the efficiency of all other channels on this list. And finally, number 8 is strategic partnerships. Now, this is different from referrals. I look at partnerships, especially when it comes to partnering with other agencies and technology partners, as something that you're creating in the ecosystem to have this complementary flywheel effect. Now, key note here, if you're partnering with tech giants, let's say, for example, Klaviyo with Salesforce or HubSpot, they're not going to give you leads. They've got too many people they need to satisfy, and maybe you'll get the odd one here or there, but it's not going to be scalable and it's not going to be consistent, especially if you're starting off in the beginning. What I would encourage you to do is look for other agencies that offer complementary services and then share clients with them. For example, I have an email marketing agency. My clients also need paid media services. They run things like CRO. So I strategically partner with these agencies to make sure that I can cross-refer people. And obviously, I expect them to reciprocate to me as well. Partnerships are incredibly powerful. You need to get out. You need to meet these people in person if you truly want them to work. If you're just passively expecting to get leads from people you've partnered with, well, guess what? You're not going to get anything. You need to give them serious attention. Make sure you're doing co-marketing on social. Make sure you're proactively sharing leads, trying to facilitate introductions. And then over time, they will pick up traction and they will take off. So they're the 8 strategies. Now, if I was starting from the beginning, what would I do? Well, personal brands, for me, content on social is absolutely the foundation that all others will follow. If I was starting off from the beginning, I would actually pair this with some type of cold outbound, whether it's on LinkedIn or cold calling, because ultimately it's probably the fastest way to get clients, where some of the other things are slow burners and you can get lucky if you send enough messages to people. However, as you start to gradually mature, I think you should go towards things like partnerships and pair them with paid ads as well. Then you're looking at building this long-term ecosystem on solid foundations that's a lot more scalable. But when you're in the beginning, you've got to do what you've got to do, and you just have to hope that people will take a chance on you. So they're my 8 channels and strategies for 2026. What I've found is that if you master one, that is enough to get to 7 figures. And only then, when you've exhausted this one channel, should you start looking at others. Trust me, I've met so many agency owners who try to spin too many plates and they get frustrated and the leads just don't come. You can get a lot more than you think from one channel. So master that, go deep, and you will achieve those targets. Hope you like this video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want to see more, and let me know what channels have worked best for you in 2026. I would love to hear them.